Hello there guys, Francis Gray here, and in today's Halloween special edition video we're going to be scratch building the movie prop of the Necronomicon Ex-Mortis from the ever awesome remake of The Evil Dead. I'll see you after this. Okay guys, so for the first thing I want to start off with this wooden shelf bracket that I bought. Now, I know what you're thinking.
You can't make Book of Dead from a shelf. What are you bloody playing at, lad?
And normally, yes, I would agree that this would be a terrible idea to use a wooden shelf for the Book of the Dead. But the client has specifically told me that they're not bothered about the book actually being a book, so I don't have to make all the pages inside, which will make this project a lot easier. Basically what they want to do is want to recreate the look of the Book of the Dead from the Evil Dead remake from 2013, but he also loved the idea of the barbed wire wrapped around it. It's not so bothered about the plastic bag, so he just wants the Book of the Dead making and then the barbed wire wrapping around it. So the book's never going to be opened, hence why it'll be perfect to use a static wooden shelf. So first things I need to open this up and have a better look at the shelf. Okay guys, that's not off to a very good start. For some reason the actual paper is welded to the wood, so God knows how that's happened.
What?
Okay, so it looks like we're gonna have to wet this and scrub it off. Okay guys, so now that that's all nice and clean, for the next stage we need to go ahead and we need to get rid of all this in between part here. So all this needs to go, and I need to carefully cut down the insides of here and here, so the only things that'll be remaining is the front cover, the side panel and then the back cover.
5 minutes later.
For the next stage I'm going in with a small drill bit, or well, medium-sized drill bit I suppose, and I'm carefully drilling out I suppose like a line going down both sides and the top part, basically just to make it a lot easier to cut later on. So if there's any problems, if it's going to break, it's more likely that it'll probably break where I've weakened it rather than like the front or the back facing. So with this being like a thin plywood, I do have to take some extra precautions. So hopefully we can make our way through this and have a decent book shape at the end of it. Okay, so as you can see there, we've successfully managed to drill a cutting channel on all sides. So for the next stage we're going to secure it in the clamp, and we're going to take our time and we're going to cut it all away. Okay, so you might notice that there is a little bit of wobbling going on. The reason is because it's like a thin plywood and hollow inside, for the most part hollow. I can't tighten the clamp up too tight because it'll probably crack the actual wood. Now there is things I could have probably done to help secure it a little bit more, but I thought I'd just try and crack on and get it done. Okay, so as you can see there, the main three edges have been took apart, but as you can see, there's a centerpiece in there which is going to complicate things. So same again, I'm going to have to take my time and saw that off.
Thousand years later.
Oh my god, that was a lot of work. So as you can see now, it's looking more book shape, but it's quite rough inside. So for the next part, I'm going to go in with a finger sander. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm now going to go in with a sanding block and I'm just going to tidy up some of the edges. And now that that's done, I'm going to go in with some of this stuff, which is white wood filler, and basically you just apply it to any surfaces or holes that you want to fill in. Leave it a couple of hours to dry and then sand it down again, and then it should be nicely blocked and smoothed out. So yeah, so just take me time and getting in all the nooks and crannies. Okay, so now that we've got all sides of the book frame made, for the next stage we're going to start thinking about cutting the leather to fit. So in order to get the correct measurements, I decided to go ahead and stick or sellotape 3 bits of A3 paper together, and then basically use the frame that we've just made to map out the size of all the surfaces. Obviously I want to allow extra to curl around the actual sides of the book, just like in the movie. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the back spine of the book to map out the areas that I'll curl around. And then I'm going to use a little measuring tool to calculate some 45-degree angles to cut the corners, basically, so when it falls round it'll line up on itself rather than overlapping. I hope that made sense. Okay, so now that we've mapped out the size of the what we need to cut out on the leather, for the next stage we're going to go out and I'm going to cut it out on paper first, and then I'm going to fold it around the book frame, and I'm going to make sure that it looks like it's a good fit. Okay, so that seems like a really good fit, so I'm happy with that because I managed to do it first time, which I can't always say happens. So yeah, so this leather, I managed to find this in a charity shop a few years ago. I have no idea if it's real leather or if it's like an artificial leather. I have no idea. It was just basically I saw it in a charity shop and I thought it'll come in handy for a future project. So mapping, just putting down the paper one that we've made first. And there's no point wasting excess materials, so I've moved it to the side. And I decided to weigh it down with a glass jar full of Christmas chocolate. Yes, this is what's left over from last Christmas, 2021. So now that it's New Year, it's as everybody knows, January's the time that you think, oh, I need to start a diet. But you've got all that leftover Christmas chocolate that you don't want to get rid of. So yeah, so at the moment I'm using it as a glorified paperweight. You might notice my my dog Harley in the bottom right there. She usually likes to keep me company when I'm working my my models on my commissions. So eagle-eye viewers might have noticed I changed my scissors from a black pair to a very manly pink pair. Basically, the pink ones are sharper and more manly.
Huh?
Okay, so at this point I use the paper template and I'm cutting off the corners to where it curls round. And basically I can map that over the leather and I can mark off where the main face parts of the book need to go. So it sounds a little bit complicated, but you'll see what I mean. Okay, so all's looking good, so let's go ahead and wrap it around and give it a quick test. Okay, so that looks like it's going to work really well. So for the next part I'm going to take a box cutter and I'm going to add some score marks to all the surfaces or all the sides of the foundation, or the book foundation. And this basically, when we add the glue, it's just going to connect better to scratches rather than a smooth wood finish. So just basically makes it more adhesive. So no, your eyes were not playing tricks on you. Yes, that was a big ass hairy spider crawling up my wall. So already this book is attracting the nightlife. But getting back to the build, so the next part was I'm just going to go in with some PVA glue and some various different size clamps, and I'm just going to take my time and clamp one end and then leave it to dry and then move on to the next until all the leather should be held in place.
Nice.
Okay guys, so the first thing I did was I brought some references up on an iPad of the actual book from the film, and used a silver highlighter pen to map out where the various seam lines should go, where obviously this book was supposed to have been stitched together from human flesh. So you got it as close as I could compared to all the different references, and so at this point I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit of bulk so inside, so it's safer to work on the book without accidentally breaking it. So I'm just using regular A4 photocopier paper. This isn't going to stay in there, it's only to help protect the frame. Okay, so now that we've mapped out all the areas that we need to cut, I'm going to take a regular box cutter and I'm going to take my time and I'm going to cut a V-groove. Okay, so now that we've made our deep V-cut grooves in amongst the leather parts, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to secure all this flat with just some regular PVA wood glue, just going over the seams and then rubbing it in with my finger, and then just leaving them to dry, and then that should be rock solid. So at this point, now that the glue's dried, I'm going to go ahead and flip it 180 degrees, and then we're going to start mapping out the back part. Now unfortunately in the film we don't get a good look at the back of the book. We only get the front and then like one shot from the side. So unfortunately we don't know what the back of the book looks like. Now I've done an extensive search on online to try and see if there's anybody like has managed to photograph the proper prop from the film, like in like a museum or an exhibition or an auction or something. But unfortunately I haven't been able to find anything online. And I've also looked up a couple of other people's videos where they've made their replicas of this book, and they came up with the same problem, that they couldn't find what the back of the book looked like. So unfortunately I've had to just make do with creating my own version. So I basically tried to make it mimic the front of the book, but obviously different because it wouldn't be 100% bang on. So it's just it looks like a nice complementary side compared to the front side.
Soon after.
Okay, so now that the back and the front is dried, we're going to go in with some of this stuff, which is regular standard milliput. That is like a greenish colour once part A and part B have been equally mixed, or equal measures mixed. And the idea is I'm going to put this onto where we've cut that V groove. So in the actual prop where the edges are sewn together, they kind of like raise up slightly a little bit, like a bumpy kind of really old aged texture, I suppose. So with just regular flat leather we wouldn't be able to get that, so I'm going to have to sculpt that detail in. So using that V groove that we cut out earlier, that's going to be useful in two ways. One, it's going to be useful because I can push the clay down into it, and then the clay's got something to basically go down into and stick to. And then later on I'm going to recut a new seam line, and I can, with a scalpel, and I can use the V-cut groove from before to help guide me along my way.
1 minute 37 seconds later.
With the scalpel, same again, I'm going to push it down into the clay so I can feel that natural V groove which we cut earlier on. So this just makes it a lot more easier and a little bit more natural looking. So I'm going to use a sculpting tool to basically fatten out, if you like, the cut that we've just made, to make it so it's more visible to the eye that these parts are, you know, separate and they're stitched together, obviously when we add the stitches later on. Okay, so at this point, when I was looking at the reference material, I realised that this is like a raised ledge area right bang more or less in the middle of the book that has like a bit of a circular groove in it. So I don't know if that's supposed to be like something that's burned the book or I don't really know what it is, but it's very prominent. So same again, just regular standard milliput, and I'm just going to blend it out with me finger and a bit of water, and then I'm going to use the back of me scalpel, which is naturally rounded, to secure to basically push in the clay and make this little indentation. Now it's not showing up on the camera now, but later on when we prime all this and start adding details, you'll see this a lot better. So yeah, I just want to explain that, it's rather than just everyone thinking I've just, you know, gone crazy and left a blob of milliput in the middle.
You get the idea.
So now that the clay is dry on all sides of the book, for the next stage we're going to go in for a rotary tool with a triangle shaped bit, and we're going to widen that seam line. So after studying more reference material, I realised that the side of the book is actually an extra piece of leather that overlaps. So it overlaps from the back over to the front. So it's really hard to see, and it's only in one little scene, but with me knowing it's there, unfortunately I'm going to have to get some more off-cut leather and go ahead and fashion a new one. So it's a little bit extra work, but it's worth it in the end. Okay, so for the next part, I'm just going to go in with a couple of different markers. I think I start off with silver and then I end up swapping to black. And we are going to map out where the stitching needs to go. So now that the book is starting to take more shape, for the next stage we need to go in and we're going to need to drill about 50 billion holes so we can add the stitching, because no decent Necronomicon would ever be seen dead, no pun intended, without a series of stitching. So yeah, let the drilling commence. So when it comes to the stitching, I ended up using this stuff, which is just general garden twine, and it was a little bit fiddly at first because it tends to fray, so it was a little bit hard to get into the designated holes, but with the help of a file I managed to use that to punch it down into place, and then that seemed to work a lot better. So I did a little bit at a time, and then once I knew it was looking good, then I glued it with super glue and then left it to dry, and then I worked on a separate piece and a separate part, and it took a while to do, but all in all, it all's well that ends well. So after leaving it a while for the super glue to fully all dry, I then went in with a lighter / taper, and I carefully bent away any of the excess stringy bits to the thread, just because when I go to prime this in a bit, then you don't want these like hairs to get in the way or to knock the paint job. So yeah, so just going over with a naked flame just helps you out in the long run.
Later, in the void.
So for the next stage, I'm going to go over with some of this, which is flexible fabric paint. Now I've currently got 2 bottles of this. One is bright gold and the other one is like a dark brown. Now it's the dark brown that we need to coat the book to give it that like binding leather look. But unfortunately, after going back to the local stockist, they said that they weren't going to continue on with the line, and therefore they weren't getting any more back in stock. So instead of waiting to send off through the post, I decided to just go ahead and give it a gold base coat first, and then use all of that up first, let it dry, and then hopefully there's enough in the dark brown tin to coat it rather nicely. So fingers crossed. So as you can see there, the dark brown is a lot better than the undercut gold. So hopefully we've got the beginnings of a rather nice looking Necronomicon Ex-Mortis. So after leaving a good few hours to dry, I then went in with some medium brown acrylic, and I started to paint over the rubber base coat that we applied first. So as you can see there, the paint went on rather nicely actually. I thought there might have been a little bit of resistance, but there wasn't. It just took to it really nice, and it worked as a really nice base coat. So yes, let's crack on with the paint job. So for the next part, I'm going to go in with some airbrush black, and I'm going to squirt it on the palette, and I'm going to take a nice thin paintbrush, and I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to get in between all the little nooks and crannies of where all these parts of human skin were stitched together. Basically just goes a long way to add depth. So now that that is dry, we're going to go in with some, again, airbrush, but this time light brown, and I'm just going to add a little tiny bit onto a makeup brush, and then I'm going to use that to add a base tone of like a regular flesh, or like a darker tone of regular flesh, just basically look like it was once human flesh that once had blood flowing through it. But obviously now it's long been decayed and dead, so it just goes a long way to make it look more like human flesh rather than just a static kind of old style leather. And now I'm going to do the same, but this time with a hint of pink. Same again, just to lighten it up and make it look more like flesh. And now I'm going to go in with a burnt limber, and I'm going to water it down, and then this is going to be acted as a wash, which is going to go over all the undertones that we've already painted, and now it's going to start resembling more the Necronomicon that we all know and love. So after leaving it a few hours to fully dry, for the next stage I went in again with the makeup brush and some black watercolour, and then I just went over the parts where it's stitched together, again just to make it look a little bit more aged. So next I'm going to go in with some black acrylic, and I'm going to take my time with a nice detail brush, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the black on all 50 billion bits of stitching. So this will take me probably about 1,000 years to do.
5 billion years later.
Okay guys, so after 5 billion years, it's finally, well, the stitching's done anyway.
Many unbearable hours later.
Okay guys, so now that we have the main frame built, we need to go ahead and we need to add some pages. Now, a quick reminder, the client said that he doesn't want this as an actual book. It's not going to open up, so we don't need to recreate all of those intricate pages. So thankfully that's going to save us a lot of work. So for the meantime, I've had to look around my local bookshops and my local charity shops to see if I can find a book roughly the same size and the same width. And thankfully, the only one thing I did find which should fit is this book here, which is titled Crimes and Criminals, which is a basic history of all the worst humans that has ever lived. So everything from gang members to serial killers and yeah, basically the people that aren't very nice. So yeah, as you can see, it's roughly the same size and it's roughly the same width as well, and already luckily this book is a bit on the loose side, so it looks like it is ready to give up the ghost anyway. And what better way to fill a book of evil with than another book of evil? So for the next stage, I'm going to carefully remove the outside sleeve of this from the pages, and then I might have to take a few pages out to make it fit nicely, snug. Then we need to think about gluing the pages together and weathering them. So we'll do that now. So cue fast forward montage. Okay guys, nothing too special at this point. It's just going in with a sharp scalpel and then just carefully take my time and scoring down the back and just taking away the outside sleeve without damaging the glued binder holding the pages together. Like I previously said, I do end up taking a few pages out as well, just so it fits nicer and a bit more snug, and soon we can go ahead and start gluing the pages together. So at this point I'm going in with a spray adhesive and I'm just taking my time and just spraying one page at a time and then carefully securing it in place. Now you can't really see that because it's fast forwarded too fast, well, not unless you've got the eyes of an orc, but for us normal mortals you can't really tell. But yeah, I made sure that all the pages were fully coated and it was a nice solid piece by the end of it. So after all that, I think I've earned myself a nice cup of tea.
A few minutes later. 12 seconds later. Two very boring minutes later. Nice. You get the idea.
A little bit of a clean up and now we're ready to get back to the project.
Tomorrow for sure.
So the tea bag worked rather well. It did make the pages look more aged, but it wasn't as much aged as I would like, because obviously this is like an ancient book. So I decided to go in with some various watercolours and just add a little bit of shading, just to make it look a little bit more atmospheric. Okay guys, so now that the pages have been weathered and darkened and look like they've aged over time, we need to go ahead and we need to get these into this. And in order to keep it into place, I'm going to use some just regular Gorilla Glue.
The next day.
So after leaving that all night to dry, for the next stage I'm going to go in with some watered down black in the airbrush, and I'm going to add some darker tones, and I'm going to add some kind of like veinage to the book for two reasons. One, to make it look like it was old, you know, decrepit veins in amongst the skin, and also to just make it look like it's a bit more corrupted. So there is some scenes in the film where you can kind of make these out, but it's not too potent, hence why the black has been watered down. Kunda, Strata, Montos, Kunda,
Dad, can I have some money for some pencils? Thank you.
kids.
One weekend of pampering later.
Okay guys, so now that that is all wrapped up, there's only one last thing to do, and that is to take some of this fake barbed wire and carefully wrap it around and then glue some of the parts together, and then hopefully that is exactly what the client wants. So this was a little bit tricky because some of the fake barbed wire, which is really just leather, some parts didn't really want to stick to the other parts all that well. But after a bit of persistence and carefully, strategically applying and then leaving it to dry and then going back in, thankfully we're hardened to a point where I could just crack on and just wrap the rest of it around, and then same again, just finish it off and glue it back into place, and then all's well that ends well. So now that that's done, we can end the video. Okay guys, so all jokes aside, I had a lot of fun filming that little reveal scene at the end. It was like my own little stamp on the Evil Dead universe or franchise. So I know it doesn't stand up to the others, but it's just my own little daft little bit of fun. So a huge thank you to my daughter Elizabeth for helping me film those scenes. She's the one at the end that conned me out of 20 quid. And I do believe she tried to keep it as well. Cheeky little scamp. But so the Necronomicon's finally finished, it's finally built. I'm very happy with the overall outcome. I think it looks great. I'm hoping that the client likes it as well. There was a lot more steps to make this than I originally thought it was going to. Originally just thinking that it was just a static prop of a book that doesn't open, it'll be pretty easy, but there was a lot more involved in this than what I originally planned. But all's well that ends well, I suppose, and it makes for a nice Halloween edition video in October. So if you've liked this video, you've liked this build, please smash that like button. Share on Facebook and Twitter because it helps new people find the YouTube channel, which I'm always appreciative of. Thank you for any help. If you have any comments, comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future builds. And if you're a fan of the channel or you just want to see this channel grow, please go over and check out my Patreon page, and hopefully we can make this a bit more permanent rather than part-time. So, once again, I'm Francis Gray. This is the 2013 version of the Necronomicon Ex-Mortis from the ever awesome Evil Dead franchise, or the Evil Dead remake. I'll see you in the next build.